Or move to the next?
I think we'll just get past this one. This is a quick one, and then we'll try to catch up a little bit because I think this stuff be pretty easy to go through.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're on to Ryze of the STEM drones, and by STEM drones, I'm pretty sure everybody's tracking by now. We're talking about those cool like DJI or Ryze Tello drones, the Parrot Mambo, those size drones that are codable. That's what we're really talking about here. Right off the bat, I'll say this time last year, we were still teaching our basic drone build, okay, with the big drones and all the components and how they all go together. I did not get hold of my first Tello until probably, I want to say October, this past October. Then I got hold of the Mambo, and then I got hold of the code drone, which we'll kind of look at that one very briefly. And so I've played with all three to some degree. Definitely I've played with the Parrot Mambo more than any of them because we immediately got involved in the RAD competition, which we'll talk about later. But I am by no means an expert, I guess is what I'm getting at on any of these drones. It sounds like from what I saw in some of the chatter that a lot of you have been playing with these drones for quite a bit. So odds are a lot of you know more about these drones than I do. I am just kind of bringing them to light and what the value I see out of it. Okay, so like I said, three basic drones I personally played with. I'll real quickly touch on the code drone. That's the one on the top there, the evil looking, I call that the evil looking drone. Just looks mean. But yeah, that's the code drone. It's, that was my least favorite of the bunch. I found this to be a very unstable drone naturally. So to me, I don't know if that's a component thing or, you know, the components they're using, but it was definitely nowhere near as stable as these bottom two. One cool feature of the code drone is they do have a remote control that can be built from scratch and programmed in Arduino. So I know a lot of schools, ours included, play with Arduino, so that kind of, those people would definitely probably like that aspect of it. But for the practical purposes here, we're really just going to focus our talk on Tello and the Parrot Mambo. So you see the Tello on the bottom left and the Mambo on the right there. We're going to kind of look at those two head to head. This is not a sales pitch by any means. I'm going to represent both of them. I'm going to tell you what I personally thought of them. Everybody probably has their own opinions on each of them. They both have pros and cons, we'll put it that way. Okay, but quick comparison. But the best thing about these STEM drones, that very first bullet, under 0.5 pounds. That is a key statement. By being under that weight, these drones are in absolutely no way regulated by the FAA. Okay, being indoors, obviously they're not regulated, but even outdoors, unless you're gonna do something totally crazy, try to violate airspace, which if you try to do that with one of these, you're never gonna see it again.
Or commercially.
Or commercial, yeah.
Once you're commercial, it's still below Part 107.
If you're gonna carry a quarter with your Mambo over to somebody to deliver change, yeah, these are very friendly indoor drones. They have no registration requirements with the FAA. They're pretty much a toy drone as far as they're concerned. Definitely built for the indoors. Okay, I know a lot of people fly them outdoors. I've heard a million stories about people taking their Tello outside, launching it, and they never saw it again. A million of them. Okay, to me, this is an indoor drone, period. Both of them are. And just to give you an idea, these guys are so small. They are very capable and stable for how cheap their price point, but even just having a drone floating inside, if the air conditioning's on, you'll see that it affects their drift and stuff. So it would not take much wind at all to get a hold of one of these drones. What I like about both of these is the basic unit in the box. You can take it out of the box, pop the battery in, download the app for either of them, and you're off and flying with your cell phone. Nowadays, most kids, especially in probably middle school and later, have a cell phone, and you can fly it right from your cell phone. I've kind of talked to different groups I've been working with. Some of the kids really love to fly from the phone. Others, like myself, actually like to fly with the actual controllers. Okay, I personally don't like the phone virtual environment, so I like the controller, but a lot of kids like the phone. Okay, and bottom line, these things are just cute. Okay, they're small little guys, they look harmless, they wouldn't hurt a fly. You can see, I mean, look at the size of them. This one's not fully put together, but very small. It's fairly harmless. I mean, it can still do a little bit of damage, but it's nothing like as worrisome as a larger drone. And to me, any school administration should not be too worried about something like that coming into your school. I know a lot of classes out there, they fly them right in their classrooms, the Tellos or the Mambos. So they're a very safe drone. Kind of a quick analysis between the two here. Flight time, they both use similar type batteries. The Tello definitely gets a better flight time out of their battery than the Mambo. Bottom line, either of these, you want to have multiple batteries or your activities are going to get halted pretty quickly. So I would say if I have a group of kids, I would want at least 3 batteries per drone. So you could keep circulating them through the chargers because they'll go quick, you know, especially once you start doing something. The range, they both have really pretty much the same range. They're showing 100 meters here. That's if you got a controller from the cell phone, it's not quite that long. It's maybe 60 meters. Okay, but the good news inside, you should never really approach that range problem. One of the big spots that the Tello jumps right out is the camera. It has a very good camera for how, you know, the size of this drone and the price point. 5 megapixel versus 0.9 with the Parrots. The Parrot camera is not the best. Okay. Tello has a pretty decent camera, especially for the size. Along with that Tello, to me, the Tello is kind of set up to give you a little bit of that camera drone feel. So it's got the stabilization, whereas the Mambo doesn't. It's not really built to shoot pictures back. It can, but it's not as good as the Tello. Cost. Tello, believe it or not, that thing, since I got into it, is really holding solid at about $100. Hasn't really gone up at all. And that's right from the supplier website. You go on Amazon, pretty much the same price. It's always right around $100. The cheapest drone I know of you can get into with that kind of capability. Okay. There are 2 basic models of the Tello. That one, which is baseline, and what this comes down to is your coding power. So the basic Tello is pretty much a block coding aircraft. If you want to get the full capable aircraft, you want to get what they call the Tello EDU model. And that's $30 extra. So for the $130, you might as well get the better model. And that's going to allow you to do absolutely amazing things. Programming all, you know, up to the highest levels, the artificial intelligence aspect, swarming. Okay, the Tello will swarm, the Parrot won't, as far as I know. Okay.
Yep, so we've actually had 2 comments. We had somebody who's actually done swarming with the Tello and Python coding, and then someone who's been looking at the AI and pattern recognition from Node-RED.
Yeah, I made a mistake. I bought the regular Tello, so I don't get to do all that cool stuff. I didn't really understand the EDU difference when I first got into it. So, but yeah, I would personally buy the EDU just so you always have the full capability of it. Programming, they both offer what we call block programming and up into the higher languages of like Python. That's what I think is extremely versatile about either of these 2 drones is the fact that a grade schooler could be learning basic coding with this thing. By the time they get into middle school, they're probably getting into the beginnings of Python. By the time they're in high school, they're probably, you know, swarming aircraft and doing artificial intelligence type cool stuff that's out there. And to me, this is a huge skill that for going forward for all kids. I think going forward, I think all kids to some extent are going to have to know how to code. Okay, that's where everything's headed. And so to me, that's one of the best things about this. You'll notice under Mambo, it says 110 to 180 for the price. Right now, as of yesterday, the price is 180. Okay. I'm going to show you where to find these because a lot of people think the Mambo has gone away. Because if you try to go to the Parrot website, you won't see it anymore. If you go on Amazon, you won't be able to find any of them brand new. You won't only find refurbished models. And there's a reason for that, which I'll go into here in a little bit. As far as programming, they both offer free programming for block coding. Tinker's not free, but they do use Google Workbench, which I'll show you a little bit later. That's the free version for Parrot Mambo. One cool thing that I think is unique about the Mambo is it's got what we call the Lego connector on top. Okay, so it's like a power port, and it can actually have attachments. And I'll show you a picture here real quick. Kind of jumped ahead, but see at the bottom here, those are 2 attachments that can go on top of the Parrot Mambo, on top of the Lego connector, and then right in the middle there is an actual FPV camera. that you can attach onto the top of this Lego connector. But this cannon, they call it, shoots little plastic BBs. They do not make this anymore.
I can tell you that
For
I
obvious
really
reasons.
appreciated the little cannon on there, whereas my wife did not so much.
Yeah, the FTW guys told me they're not making that anymore because it's nothing but a pain. It's tracking down BBs and stuff. I probably have some of the last cannons there are. I have a whole box full of them, and I'm saving them for when we actually get the kids back into summer camp, because I'm sorry, but nothing better than a drone that can shoot BBs out of plastic cup. Sorry. This little guy, the attachment, that's the package carrier thing, or the claw. That we actually have used. It's pretty neat. It'll hold, we used a quarter, you can carry stuff around with it, pick stuff up, open it and close it. But we'll kind of go back here. I jumped ahead there for a minute. Bottom line is they both have pros and cons. Okay. My big problem with the Tello, I had two issues that I do not like about the Tello right off the bat. A, I do not like the fact that it's a Wi-Fi drone. For what we do, typically having multiple groups flying in the same area, you get any more than about 4 or 5 of these in a close area, you're going to run into problems. Okay, I do not like the fact that they are Wi-Fi. Okay, so basically what that means is the drone itself, as soon as you plug the battery in, it emits a Wi-Fi signal. Then on your cell phone, you have to find that particular drone and connect to it, and now you're competing with everybody else on the Wi-Fi space. Okay. They do have workarounds. And that's the thing about the Tello, which is, to me is a huge advantage. The support network for Tello is crazy. I call it a cult, and I'm getting ready to take you to a site that will, all things drone, you'll see the Tello is by far one of the most massive sites of, and we're not just talking about hobby people, we're talking about engineers that are developing some of the apps and the programs for this thing. So you're getting some major activity on this little drone, which Parrot is not enjoying yet, the Mambo isn't. My other huge drawback to the Tello, and anybody who has one has probably experienced it, I experienced it, is the problem with the Tello is it has a very powerful processor, and it's right there on the bottom of the drone, okay? So when you're on the ground and you spend any amount of time on the ground with this thing on, it's gonna overheat, okay? It happens a lot. Okay? Once it overheats, the whole thing just shuts down. It doesn't do anything for you, okay? You'll even find this on the forums. People, some of the recommendations are to take your Tello and put it in the freezer for a while to cool it down. I've actually ran into this. This can be a pain when you're trying to deal with multiple kids and keeping it in there. You don't want something like that. I don't think they've come out with a fix for it yet. I haven't really researched it recently, but I would hope that they would fix that because it is a major problem in my opinion. Okay, so that's the bad of Tello. The bad for Mambo. Like I said earlier, it's not open sourced anymore, so if you try to find, I don't know, curriculum, anything like that, focused towards the Mambo, it's disappearing. It's being pulled off the web as we speak. There's a reason for that. The Parrot company has sold all the rights to the Mambo to FTW Robotics, which we'll be visiting that site here in a few minutes. They completely own the Mambo now, and what they have done is hoarded every part, every drone, every package off of the internet. So you can't find it on Amazon, you can't find it anywhere. You have to go to FTW to get it, okay? So I call that closed sourcing. I don't like that. It's very hard to go out and get, you know, technical stuff because it's all gonna end up coming through FTW now because they own it. They are actually gonna start manufacturing it and producing it now, okay? They're in the process of that right now. The good news about that is, to me, is as they do come on board with that, and we'll talk about them later, they are very STEM focused towards kids and stuff, so I anticipate a lot of awesome things to come, and we'll kind of get into that when we get into our competition stuff. But so those are two pros and cons of each. But one place I want to take you real quick is what I call the drone pilots community. To me, this link is worth its weight in gold. And this thing is getting bigger and bigger every day. And what I love about this is it is really adding its drones. Almost any drone you can think of, anything that's halfway popular, there's probably a place for it on here. And if you go all the way down to the bottom, you'll see Mavic, Phantoms, Inspires, Unic, Tello, Parrot. So let's look at the Parrot real quick. Okay. You go onto the Parrot page, And then down to the different models, you'll see there's a Mambo page. And like I was saying earlier, the support for the Mambo is just not there because a lot of people I think are out there don't realize the Mambo is still being made or how they can get a hold of one. Okay, so I think their support is nowhere near the level of the Tello support. But I do believe the drone is fairly much as capable as the Tello. We just don't know because there's not people playing with it like they are on the Tello. There are, you know, it's got a few posts. You can see the latest one in July. We have June and July posts, but like I said, it's definitely nowhere near the Mambo level. So we'll go to the Tello level, I'm sorry. Tello, this is off the hook. Okay, yeah, Tello is off the hook. It's a cult, okay? There are people all the way up at four-year MIT and universities playing with this thing, okay? That's what to me is the most amazing thing about this drone. A kindergartner all the way through a four-year college student can get some educational value out of this drone, okay? So down at the grade school level, I could have kids learning basic flying with a very easy to fly drone. It's very forgiving, just has a lot of the same flight features as your Phantoms and your more expensive drones. It'll auto hover. You can let go of the sticks if you panic and it'll hover, that kind of stuff. The stuff you see on the higher end drones. So it's a very easy, friendly drone to learn how to fly. And huge support for this. I mean, to the point where we have hardware mods and repair discussion. And some of these people are guys like you and me, but a lot of these guys are engineers. I mean, you'll actually, if you follow this, you'll see that people are developing some of the apps on here and they'll put out the beta versions before they ever get sold. Okay, so you'll actually see the process on here. They have, I mean, the support for Tello is beyond belief. So to me, that is probably the most useful STEM drone, especially if you're getting into the higher levels in high school and college of programming and stuff. You'll have way more support on this drone than you will the Mambo. That is a great resource to use, and kind of go to each page here. So here's the Tello page, or Ryze Tello, and this is pretty much backed by DJI. So you see a lot of the components and the features are the same typical DJI stuff, but it'll give you the basics on what it can do. Another drawback to the Tello is it wants to use your phone no matter what on its basic remote on its basic controller. Okay, so it wants to keep the phone with the controller. I think they have done workarounds to where you can actually use a separate controller now and don't have to use your phone. Mambo, on the other hand, I can use my phone or I can buy a separate controller and run them completely separately. So to me, that's a plus for the Mambo. They're both VR, they have FPV capability, so you can learn line of sight FPV, coding, all on each of the drones. Okay, so that's Ryze. Then more importantly, let's go to the Mambo, because a lot of people don't realize this is still out there, but it's actually at this place called FTW Robotics. Stands for the win, robotics. And these are a couple of young guys out in California. They got started in Georgia quite a few years back. They actually had started drone competitions before they were cool. And, you know, they had a huge interest in STEM and kids. So they decided to go out and start a company called FTW Robotics. They made a deal with Parrot. So now they are becoming the manufacturer for that drone. And they've already, you can see this site is constantly changing because they're still working. But I know they have hired some curriculum writers now. So they are making flight curriculum that you can purchase. But this is where you would go to buy the drones now. So you can still get the Parrot Mambo. And you'll see they have classroom bundles, individual drones, REC, which we're going to talk about the RAD here in a little while under student competitions. They are the official sponsor of the RAD. Okay, them and the REC. Okay, but here you see anything you want to learn Mambo, you can come here. You can see the basic drone is $180 right now. One unique thing they are doing that the Tello does not do yet is they actually offer this as a build kit now. meaning they will send you this drone into individual pieces and let you put it together. So you could incorporate somewhat of a build into your stem there. Okay, but that is the basics of my stem drones. Are there any questions on just, we're going to kind of go a little bit more detailed into what the stem drones do, but that's kind of just a quick comparison of Mambo and Tello. And more importantly, I'm kind of interested how many of you out there thought that the Mambo was gone for good.
That is one thing. So,
What's that?
a little slow on the keyboard. But yeah, we had at least one say that they thought the Mambo was gone. I heard multiple people say the same thing when I'm talking to folks.
Yeah, but
Parrot Mambo anywhere. Well, you're not looking at the right place. It's not Parrot Mambo anymore.
Yeah.
You know, so.
And I've been on multiple websites where people were talking, hey, the Mambo isn't made anymore, but it is.
All right, let's see. How big is the class size and the flight operations using entry-level drones? And how many drones do you have in inventory? As Tom said, about 3 on a drone with enough batteries to allow them to cycle through and for a battery to charge fully and put it back in the mix. So batteries really going to be your limitations on that. So if you've got just a room full of batteries, well, hey, you can keep students going all day long regardless of the number of students that you have. But 1 to 3, one aircraft, 3 students is a decent ratio that allows everybody to get a chance to fly without taking too long and without having students that are disengaged while other folks are flying.
Yep, definitely 3 is at the most I would have on one of these drones.
Yeah. And as far as the number of drones that you have in inventory, well, again, that's going to depend on you. You're going to want a couple of backups. Things will happen. Things will need to be fixed. What we do around here is whenever something breaks, we actually integrate it right into our classes that we have for technicians here. I know that's a little different here at the 2-year level, but if we run a summer camp and something happens to it, we usually bring in students for support, and students are actually in our technician program, and we'll have that student our technician students take the summer camp student off to the side and run through troubleshooting with them. Let the student take the lead and just kind of help them along. There's tons that can be learned on fixing these aircraft that you wouldn't otherwise know. And it's really a great skill to have. At the end of the day, if we're in the UAS world, we see that there's more and more autopilot type actions, there's more AI driven, but somebody's still gonna need to wrench on that aircraft. So there's absolute value in those skill sets.
Right. Yeah, my little guy here is a good example. I have a fleet of 10 of these, and this is the only one so far that we've not been able to fix. It's broken. None of the motors are bad. It's something on our board, which obviously on these boards there ain't a whole lot you can do with them. They're so miniaturized, but yeah, this is kind of like our maintenance drone that we show how to replace motors, how it's all kind of put in there. And on the build kits with the Mambo, this is how it's going to come from now on. The motors will come separate, the boards will come separate, and you'll have to actually put these together. They have video instructions for it all. They actually have a whole line in Google Classroom that they're working on right now for the COVID-19 situation. So they are looking at having things for educators to be able to use. They're going to make all that free, they told me. That's their plan. Anything that's going to be distance is going to be free as far as the Parrot Mambo. But go on YouTube, a quick search of Parrot Mambo or Tello for that matter. You're going to find a plethora of videos on how to do this, how to do that.